The morning wind crosses the carrier deck, and it smells like cold steel and salt. A fighter sits at the edge of the world with its nose over blue water. A deck crewman squats by the wheel chock and waits for the signal. The pilot watches the deck officers' wands and the sea that rises and falls below the bow. The air is not quiet. Engines grumble. Chains clink. Somewhere behind the island, a whistle sings the note everyone knows. The pilot lowers his head once. He is not famous. He is not a legend yet. He is a working man in a Grumman with a job to do. He locks the harness. He lays his hand on the throttle. He glances at his wingman a few yards away. 2 airplanes. One idea. The idea will keep them alive. They call it the weave. They will not call it that at first. They will call it a trick. They will call it a problem in geometry that turned into a way home. They will learn it from one man who carried matchsticks in his pocket and a notebook in his head. He is John S. Thatch. He teaches fighters to think like a pair. He teaches them to turn one attacker into 2 targets. He does it with timing, trust, and a line drawn in the air that crosses itself again and again. Before the trick, the sea and the sky belong to the Zero. The Japanese fighter is light. Its wing is generous. Its engine breathes clean air and turns that air into lift with ease. In a flat turn, it lives where other fighters lose patience and lift. In a climb, it floats. It has long legs and a steady gun platform. It does not carry armor the way a Grumman Wildcat does. It does not carry thick self-sealing tanks. It does not need them if you never hit it. American fighter pilots learn the hard part first. Do not dogfight a Zero at the Zero's favorite speed. Do not follow it into a flat turn at low speed. Do not try to outclimb it if you start behind it. If you do, you feed a skillful pilot your tail. You give him an easy shot. John Thatch reads reports that say all of this. He reads them before most men see a Zero with their own eyes. He sits at a kitchen table in San Diego with a cup of coffee and a handful of matchsticks. He places 2 sticks on the table. They are his fighters. He places another stick farther out. That is the enemy. He moves the sticks slowly. He talks to himself. He imagines airspeeds and bank angles. He imagines radio calls and silence. He moves the sticks again until the enemy's stick always ends up in front of one of his sticks. You can see it if you stand over his shoulder. 2 friendly sticks fly parallel with a space between them. An attacker follows the right-hand stick. The 2 friendly sticks turn toward each other at the same time. They cut across the space. The attacker flies into the guns of the other friendly stick. If the attacker breaks away at the last second, the 2 friendly sticks cross and reverse. Now the other friendly stick is bait. The first friendly stick has the shot. The pattern repeats. The pattern never lets the attacker settle behind either one. He brings the idea to the field. He calls one section to fly as bait. He calls another section to act as the hook. He wires the throttles of the bait airplanes, partly closed to simulate a slower machine. He tells Edward O'Hare to attack. O'Hare tries every angle he can imagine. He dives in fast. He slides in slow. He climbs to draw a lead error. He rolls off the top and tries to catch them during the reversal. Each time, he ends up with a wildcat nose pointing back at him. The test ends with a grin and a simple line. Skipper. It really worked. You do not win a war on a test day. You win a war when a trick lives inside a man's hands. So the sections practice. 2 airplanes side by side, a set distance between them. Not too far or the shot will be late. Not too close or they will rob each other of room. They pick a base speed that fits their airframe and their load. They rehearse the call that starts the turn. They decide the bank angle they can both hit without a word. They try the weave under power and at climb. They try it with flaps and without. They try it while keeping an escort station on a slow torpedo bomber and while racing to catch a dive bomber trail. The men who get it right do the same small things the same way. They never cut power at the wrong time. They never lag the turn and leave a gap. They watch their partner, not the enemy, because the enemy will appear where the partner puts him. They time the reversal like a clock. Each pass takes the same number of heartbeats. Each crossover happens at the same second. The radio call is brief. The turning room is theirs. You can draw it on a chalkboard. You can teach it inside a tent with a flashlight and bottle caps. Say the enemy drives in on your right wing partner. The call comes. Weave right. You roll in toward your partner with a steady bank. You hold the agreed speed. Your partner does the same. As your partner crosses in front of you, the enemy is forced to commit. He must stay with the target, or he must give up the angle. If he stays, his nose swings across your windscreen. You get a shot at a steady crossing target. If he gives up, he bleeds energy for nothing, and you reset. You keep the weave alive. You keep your partner covered. You keep the attacker under a sight picture he cannot ignore. Simplicity might be the best part. It works with 2 airplanes. It works with 4 airplanes. It works with a division that spreads into 2 pairs. It works at almost any altitude if you agree on a speed and a turn rate that your airframe can hold. A section can do it without a radio if they must. 2 pilots can launch, set spacing, and defend one another on sight alone. Now place that trick inside an ugly day. A carrier deck heaves in a Pacific swell. The air is hot and heavy. The torpedo bombers need escorts with patience. The Wildcats are heavy with ammunition and fuel. The formation is slow and a long way from home. Zeros slide into the sun and pick when to start a run. They choose a Wildcat on the right of the pair and dive in. The fight begins. The leader does not wait to see bullets. He gives the call. He turns in. His wingman turns in. The Zeros dive into a pair that looks careless and discover that it is a trap that moves and reloads itself every few seconds. The attackers cannot sit in the pocket behind one target. If they try, they cross the other target's nose. If they leave, the pocket disappears before they can lock in. The escort stays intact above the bombers. The bombers keep their straight line for a few seconds longer. That small handful of seconds is the difference between a clean drop and a scatter of misses. The first time John Thatch tries it in a real fight, the stakes are brutal. The place is Midway. The date is early June. He leads Wildcats that cover Devastators going in slow and steady. The Zeros come in fast and in numbers. The Wildcats do not run. They weave. They cross. They reverse. Zeros pull in and find the 50 caliber fire walking toward them. Zeros break away and find the trap resets during every crossover. Men on both sides pay in fire and noise. When the air is empty again, Wildcats are still circling. Several Zeros are not. The trick that lived in matchsticks now lives in gun, camera film. And in pilots who land with shaking hands and eyes that know they are not supposed to be alive. Word moves faster than metal. A ready room hears a story from a man who flew a section and came home. The next day that room tries the weave above a strip of water and coral. A training squadron draws the pattern in chalk and calls out reversals until young hands can feel the timing. A new division chief says the words in his sleep. An old one tells his wingman to stop staring at the enemy and to stare at him instead. There is a reason the weave belongs to the Pacific and not to Europe first. The Pacific is far and thin. If you escort a slow bomber, you live in a box where you cannot leave the bomber, and you cannot outrun the men who want to kill it. In that box you need a tool that moves the danger without moving the escort far from its work. The weave pulls the danger through that box and lets the fighting line end, right in front of friendly guns. It also respects the machines that fly it. The Wildcat is not a Zero. It is heavier. It rolls well at speed. It dives with authority. It does not love a slow, flat turn. The weave avoids that trap. It keeps speed. It keeps energy. It keeps control surfaces alive. It lets a pair of Wildcats act like a single beast with 2 sets of teeth and 1 brain. Later, when Hellcats and Corsairs join the war, they bring more power and better roll. They still keep the weave, because the rule behind it never ages. A pair can be stronger than 2 singles if they agree to share the same problem at the same second. There is a second lesson in the weave that newer pilots learn faster than older ones. Trust wins. You do not stare at the man trying to kill you. You stare at your wingman. He stares at you. The enemy will move as that trust tells him to move. If you look away and chase a single turn, you break the clock. When you break the clock, someone dies. It is often you. So squadrons write small rules on boards that smell of chalk and coffee. Spacing is set before takeoff. Turn calls are short. Airspeed is agreed for the weave. Bank angle is matched. No one drifts wide. No one cuts inside. If the escort must throttle back to stay with the bombers, the base speed of the weave is set with that in mind. If the escort has altitude to trade, the weave is set with a shallow descent to keep energy available for the reset. You can hear a good weave on the radio. It is quiet. The only words are calls for the turn and a short shout when a shot appears. Each reversal follows the last with the same rhythm. You can see it on film. 2 trails cross. 2 trails cross again. A third trail darts in and then flares like a match head as rounds tear into a thin wing. You can also hear a bad weave. It is full of advice and fear. It is full of shouted orders and new speeds and new turns in the middle of the pattern. It has long pauses where no one calls the reversal. It stretches into a lazy S shape. It leaves a hole for a patient attacker to slip in. The fix is not courage. The fix is humility. The fix is to go back to the simple plan on the chalkboard and keep it simple in the air. Some pilots try to copy the shape of the weave and never learn the heart of it. They turn too soon. They turn too late. They chase a zero and leave their partner to face the next pass alone. They forget that the weave is not a duel. It is a promise. If you honor the promise, your guns are there when your partner needs them. If you break it, the pattern loses meaning in one reversal. Now place the weave inside the larger war. American carriers must protect torpedo bombers that die if they are left naked. American island bases must keep patrol planes alive long enough to report a fleet. Early in the war, escorts die like mayflies when they try to dogfight each attack as a single fight. After the weave spreads, escorts come back with more holes and more stories, but they come back. Bombers get to the drop line in better order. Torpedo runs still draw blood, but they are not the slaughter that used to break men's voices in ready rooms. Survival starts to mean experience. Experience starts to mean new leaders. New leaders teach the weave to men who have not yet seen a zero. The zero loses what it needs most. It loses the gift of easy geometry. There is another quiet gift. Pilots learn to love the word mutual. They learn to see the air as a series of agreements. If I turn now, you turn now. If I cannot see the attacker, I trust that you can see him, and that your nose will meet his path. If I must break out a plane, I will tell you, and I will come back in where you can reach me at the next reversal. The habit grows past the weave itself. It grows into rendezvous discipline. It grows into escort station keeping. It grows into the way divisions use altitude blocks and hand off threats across miles. One trick becomes a culture. The weave even teaches when not to use it. There are days when the section must refuse the pattern and run a boom and zoom. There are days when the division has a speed edge and can force the fight vertical and then drop back onto targets that cannot climb with them. There are days when the escort must split to chase a last attacker who dives for the bombers at the edge of range. A good leader hears the timing of the pattern in his head and knows when to stop the music. But on most days in the early war, the weave is the right answer. It is the right answer because it buys time and turns a single attacker into a predictable problem. It is the right answer because it rewards calm hands more than violent ones. It is the right answer because it keeps an escort doing its job instead of burning its fuel in brave but useless chases. It is the right answer because it is simple. Think about a scene above a line of blue water near a small island with a grass strip. Two wildcats sit just above the torpedo bombers. The leader is on the left. The wingman is on the right. The zeros appear at the edge of the sun glare. The first zero picks the right-hand wildcat. The leader gives the call. The two Grummans roll toward each other. Wings bite the air. The zero comes in hot. He holds his fire because he wants a sure burst at close range. He watches the right-hand wildcat grow in his ring sight. He does not see the left-hand wildcat's nose rising across his path. He realizes too late that the bait is not alone. Tracers reach out and walk into his plan. He breaks hard, but the cross already reset. The two wildcats cross again. The second zero tries from the other side and sees the same trap with the roles reversed. The pattern repeats until the torpedo bombers finish their run and turn back into the wind with smoke trailing from one and a new hole in another. The escorts are still there. The zeros are not done, but the fight is not free to them anymore. A young pilot asks a senior one why the weave works when both airplanes are not as nimble as the enemy. The senior one says it like a teacher. It works because nobody can look two directions at once. It works because nobody can be patient and greedy at the same time. If the attacker stays patient and watches for the cross, he gives up his shot. If he stays greedy for the shot, he gives up his safety at the cross. The weave forces that choice every few seconds. The weave turns that choice into a coin toss that favors the pair that keeps its timing tight. A training officer adds numbers to the lesson. He draws a circle for the turn radius at the chosen speed. He shows how the two circles overlap at the crossing point. He points at the deflection angle that an attacker must solve when the target crosses the weave at speed. He shows why a steady cross gives a steady shot for the covering fighter. He shows why a sloppy cross robs both partners of a shot and hands the advantage back. He does not need many words. The chalk lines tell the story in curves that any eye can follow. The weave spreads past the Navy. Marine pilots on island strips adopt it. Army pilots who fly P-30As and P-40s in the Pacific adopt it when they escort medium bombers. The design of the aircraft changes. The rule behind the pattern does not. Two airplanes that agree on speed, turn rate, spacing, and signal will always be harder to kill than two airplanes that act alone. There is one more thing the weave does that nobody expects at first. It calms men who are new. It gives them a task they can do on the worst day of their life. Hold spacing. Match the bank. Call the turn. Keep the clock. It takes fear and turns it into a list. Lists save lives because lists survive panic. That is why the men who teach the weave care about language. They never call it a dance. They never call it art. They call it work. They call it a drill. They make it as boring on a clear training day as it is deadly on a day when the sun is full of wings. Years pass inside months in a war. The Wildcat ages out. The Hellcat arrives with more engine. The Corsair shows up with a bent wing and speed. The weave goes with them. The Zero is no longer a mystery. New Japanese fighters show up with better roll and speed. The weave still beats alpha hunger and tunnel vision. It still turns a slow bomber run into time, bought with small bursts and short calls. It still brings more pilots home than any single personal trick ever will. John Thatch does not keep the secret for himself. He teaches. He briefs. He watches squadrons try it and fail and try again. He refines the spacing for each airframe. He tunes the base speed for each mission profile. He writes notes that stand up in a ready room with poor light, and a chalk that breaks in your hand. He never sells it as genius. He sells it as insurance. He calls it the best bet a pair can make in a sky that is full of worse bets. There is a day late in the war when a pilot who has used the weave for years lands, aft, after a long escort. His Wildcat has holes in the wings and a cut in the fuselage where a burst walked under the cockpit. He climbs down slow. He puts a hand on the wing root and laughs. Without humor. He tells the ground crew the same line you have heard before. I should not be here. Then he adds the line that belongs to this story. The weave bought the minutes I needed. Another pilot says it in a different way, after a long mission over water. I never saw the man who wanted me dead. I saw my wingman. I did what he did. That is why I am talking now. The weave gives more than survival. It gives purpose to the job of escort. Before it, too many fighters see escort duty as a slow death. You fly in a box and watch other men die. With the weave, you own a plan that beats the most common attack in the book. You do not chase glory. You guard space. You create pain at a point in the sky that the enemy cannot avoid if he wants to hurt your bombers. You go home with your job done and your partner alive. It changes the mood of a unit. It changes the math of a campaign. More crews with hours in their logbooks make better choices in the next fight. The simple pattern becomes a doctrine inside the larger idea of mutual support. Finger four formations take shape in other theaters. Pair swap roles. Leaders rotate with wingmen to share the load. None of those ideas cancel the weave. They only make the culture around it stronger. Think once more about the desk in San Diego with matchsticks on it. A man with a steady temper and a clear eye moves 2 sticks across a table. He is not chasing aces. He is trying to save strangers. He draws a trap that kind men can use without rage. He hands it to pilots who will never meet him. He asks them to trust the pattern more than they trust their fear. He tells them to look at each other and not at death. The weave is not romance. It is not a duel. It is a way to share risk so that risk shrinks. It is the opposite of a lone hero story. It is a craft solution that treats the air like a chessboard that refreshes every few seconds. It is patient. It is repeatable. It is ugly to watch if you are the one who wants a clean kill. It is beautiful to watch if you are the one who wants your friend to land. After the war, the tactic goes into books and lives in museums as a diagram with arrows. The arrows miss something the pilots know. The weave feels like breathing in time with someone else, while the world tries to punch holes in both of you. It feels like choosing duty over impulse every few seconds. It feels like faith made visible in aluminum and gunfire. You can still see it at air shows when 2 old fighters pass and cross and pass again. You can still hear the lesson in any briefing where a leader says the word mutual. You can still teach it with bottle caps on a table. You can still save a life with it if you fly a machine that fights other machines with guns. The Pacific made many myths. Some belong to names carved on stone. Some belong to machines that gleam in hangars. Some belong to patterns that will not rust. The weave that John Thatch taught is one of those patterns. It kept escorts alive long enough to do the job they were sent to do. It turned pairs into teams. It made 0 pilots face a choice they could not solve twice in a row. It moved the odds a little. Then it moved them a little more. Then it turned those small moves into a wave that ran down a long chain of missions. One pilot's trick did not end the war. It did something quieter. It raised the chance that a pilot would climb out of a cockpit at the end of the day and write a letter. It raised the chance that a torpedo bomber would cross a wake and see a target in its sight. It raised the chance that a pair would land together and debrief side by side. It took impossible odds and turned them into hard work that a steady hand could do. If you need a single line to remember it by, use the line the pilots used. Weave and live. Cross and cover. Keep the clock. Keep your partner. Keep the promise. Subscribe for more untold stories of the Second World War.